Welcome back to our course, and today we're going to talk about strategic operational and strategic priorities in global supply chain sustainability. So in the last lecture, if we take a brief recap, we actually talked about environmental, social, and economic sustainabilities. And today we're going to talk about our priority in our sustainability levels. So first of all, it is our liability. Liability is viewed as a burden to the company. It doesn't really help the company to have competitive advantage. So basically, it is so when there's a sustainable problem in the liability stage, basically the businesses is not actually it is a burden to the business. For example, if the business is always using non-renewable energy sources, and suddenly the government asks and forces them to use solar energy, it's actually a burden because they are spending more cost into production. Well, they can get a much cheaper cost while using natural gas, while using coal, while using something else, burning fossil fuel to generate electricity. So definitely it is a burden in the first stage. And the second stage is neutrality. It is neutral to the company. So it doesn't help the company, but it doesn't exacerbate too much. For example, the company is able to implement certain business practices, and the government forces them to use another, and it's possible they can do this exchange. But for this there's no much effect, and this doesn't happen too often, the neutrality, and then it's relevant. So now the company start to recognize the issue of sustainability and is relevant to its advantage, which means if they follow this sustainability and actually want to actually work towards achieving sustainability, it's actually able to achieve their a competitive advantage. But however, it is only they know it can help them to achieve, but it's just a relevant stage, but they are not sure whether it will work and they haven't implemented it yet. And the asset point of view is they believe that you can understand how to utilize it, so they actually get hung of how to implement these sustainability practices, and they can resolve certain issues and help them to improve its competitive advantage. Enabler, as from the word enable, means to make something possible. Enabler means the state the business can make something possible, which means they are maybe using innovations or something else. They are basically implementing sustainable business practices, not currently but also in the future, and it helps them to enjoy stronger competitive advantage in the market. Now, in terms of operational priority, operational priorities can be broken down into three categories. First one is corrective activities, second is preventive activities, and third one is innovating activities. So in corrective activities, basically the company takes action only when they identify such a problem due to its failures. Otherwise, they're not going to care about this. So basically, if sustainability will play a part in fixing certain problems, or if they don't achieve sustainability, they will have certain problems, then they will for example, charges by the government, they're going to correct this. Or although some businesses find some loopholes of the regulations, try to still keep these things going on under regulations so they don't get some fine, or they hide it. And the second category is preventive activities. So preventive activities is those activities who are helps them to prevent imminent problems due to failure to test sustainability. So they using strategies to boost sustainability with some existing processes. And in innovating activities, they're innovating, building their own ways, own methods. They research and develop the complete R&D process to reach sustainability with newer processes, more consistent, more sustainable business processes that can help them to improve their competitive advantage and long-term business growth, or long-term business long-term business survival. This is the framework of sustainability levels. Let me make it smaller. So here we're looking at the framework. So first of all, we have an ignorant point of view, and then we have so remember just now we talked about strategic priority, where we start from strategic to strategic liability to neutrality, relevance, asset, and enabler. Then we have a corrective, preventive, and innovative as our operational priorities in our axes. So first of all, we have ignorant, where we don't care about the problem. It is a burden and doesn't help us. Then we are actually passively thinking of this problem. Passively means you're not paying full attention on these problems, thinking a bit. And then we have reactive. We react what happens in this problem, and in the preventive stage we're receptive, which means we're accepting what happens and we're actually thinking of changing this problem. You realize the problem. Not only realize, but you thinking more. And in the constructive stage, you're actually implementing strategies to help solve this problem, to help reach sustainability, help progress towards sustainability. Proactive part is actually you not only construct, but you are self-constructing. No one forces you to, but you believe that reaching sustainability can not only help you to pass all the laws, maybe government impose certain environmental laws, but it can help you to achieve competitive advantage. This is happening for those businesses who have a lot of money, especially in developed countries, or those businesses who are have customer loyalty, who have these products, because when they reach sustainability, they might charge premium prices. So even though it may be costly to implement these strategies, sustainability practices, they may use this as an advertisement, use it as a point, as a kind of a pinpoint, as a pinpoint to help them gain money, gain profit. So then they will proactively solve this problem. And then innovation and transcendental, maybe through innovation and extensive activities. Transcendental means not only transcendental means it's better than what it is thought of. It is better than what is possible in the market, what people demanded. So they kind of innovating and kind of across the boundaries of what is possible. It is usually achieved by innovating activities through research and development. And now, effective decision making for global sustainable supply chain management is what I'm discussing now. So if we go back, our objective is to maximize efficiency-driven and responsiveness-driven value on the global scale and minimize mismatch between demand and supply on a global scale as well. How to implement this, how to achieve this by spreading the value chain. And we talk about this as well. I think we went through this in the first page. Yeah, we actually had the same slide. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I had the same slide. Okay, so afterwards, and now we're going here. So our strategic elements, first of all, dynamic learning. If you recall from our lecture 3, you talk about learning capability. Dynamic learning is important. Dynamic learning refers to not only like learning from the book, you're learning doing cause effect analysis, and you keep updating what you learn, applying either for further learning or applying for kind of a for application as well. So we're fast learning, and we try to update. We try to be a learning organization, build ourselves into a efficient learning and effective learning organization. Balance between short-term learning and long-term learning. So sometimes we have issues, we should do short-term learning. That's why I mentioned before single loop and double loop learning. If you recall, I never say that double loop learning is the only case, because for some short problems, single loop learning is much more efficient, and for some problems you should not you don't have to go so deep. And long-term learnings are definitely important for long-term growth. And then continuous environmental surveillance, negotiation, and continuous monitor. You should monitor these changes, cultural aspect, administrative, government aspect, regulation point of view, economic aspect, and technological changes. They can both provide benefits, although they can also be burden if you need to spend more cost. Remember, these are the goals for you, so you try to think about this. So sometimes environmental surveillance can actually help you. If you produce a more green product, customers may like it better, and they even want to premium prices. But in our lecture 0, I talk about is really dependent on customer awareness. Some countries people are not so aware of the environmental effects; they just want a cheaper price. Some countries don't. So think about whether, although it's a bit unethical, but think about how you're going to improve your product sustainability aspect in terms of the awareness to make profits. Now, managerial insight. So we focus on 3C, scope, and 3C now, calculus, creativity, and commitment. These are 3 new concepts introducing to you now, and we prioritize short-term and long-term objectives. So calculus is basically, I'm going to talk in detail. Calculus is the internal external analysis, when your internal integration, which you integrate interform coordinations, functions, activities, communications, and external integration as well. We integrate with suppliers, customer, partners, and market in general. And then you also have an ecosystem analysis. What are the players? What we are? What is the value? So calculus is basically, calculus in math. You're trying to find out the changes, how we're going to cooperate well between many different participants, different parties. How can we integrate our resources in general? So in internal point of view, we're kind of integrating our inside our firm, and here we are kind of integrating activities with other firms outside our firm and with our firm. So kind of integrate our firm and other firm externally together to generate profits, revenues. What are the player? What are the value? So this is about calculus. In creativity is straightforward. So we require communication, congruency, and concurrency to come up with creative concepts, come up with creative supply chain strategies in order to processes, in order to help us to reach higher goals. And we need diversity, and we need to leverage. So for example, sumo versus a judo strategy, we sometimes have to leverage. And commitment is basically concentration, consistency. You have to motivate employees, you have to be persistent, everybody have to be persistent in the company. Gemma Watt in 1991 said this: the tendency of strategies to persist over time caused by locking, lockout lags, and inertia. So the tendency to strategies to persist, we have to kind of have this locking, lockout, and implicit And the irreversibility implicit in commitment necessitates a deep look into the future. When we have commitment, we have a better future outlook, better future kind of chances. And to be lasting, we should form after calculus and creativity. After we have calculus, we have integrations going on. After we have creativity, everybody's have a smooth chain. Everybody's willing to share new ideas, willing to come up and propose new ideas. Then it's easier in this point of time to have commitment to be achieved at the same time afterwards. Okay, guys, and this is pretty much about part 3. And in the next video, we'll end this course. So actually, we finished all the concepts want to be taught in this course. This is our 8th lecture. And next lecture will be a bit short. You only have one slide, but I want to talk more about because I want to give a wrap up in this course. So let's take a full recap on globalization first. So first of all, I don't want to talk more about the globalization periods. I mentioned it quite clear. Let's focus on sustainability. So just take a brief recap on this main part of this part 2 of this lecture, or part 3, I think. I don't remember. I think it's part 3. So, part 3. We first talk about calculus, which is an integrating capability, integrate different elements inside our firms, kind of identify our values, how do we relate to others, through kind of these implicit factors as well. Creativity is important to come up with creative concepts, ideas, and proposals. While commitment is afterwards, we have to increase our efficiency and consistency to kind of run our business for a longer time successfully. Okay, guys, so that's pretty much about this video. I want to first congratulations for you guys for continuing or for completing all the contents in this and all the lectures actually in Supply Chain Management 101 course, a learning perspective. So really, I'm really happy you guys have made it to this point. You guys are persistent, are putting effort, and I really want to thank you guys for kind of keep watching my course. And in the next video, I'll do a wrap up. So I'll see you in the next video.